This was not a good night for the president. Everything he touched was a loser. Trump hasn't been this embarrassed since he found out there was a Donald Trump Jr. If you're tired of all the losing, fear not, he's got an excuse.
I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a
When late-night comedy royalty teams up with someone who carries presidential elegance, you get Jimmy Kimmel and Michelle Obama tearing into Trump and JD Vance like it's a roast disguised as group therapy. Kimmel's dropping hits so sharp they deserve their own security detail, while Michelle's calm, graceful dismantling feels like a humanitarian rescue mission for common sense. And honestly, buckle up, because this isn't politics anymore. It's a comedic demolition dressed up as democracy, and everyone on the receiving end is about to get emotionally evicted.
It was a tough night personally for the vice president. JD Vance's half-brother, I didn't even know JD Vance had a half-brother, but he does. VD Vance lost his bid to become mayor of Cincinnati. And even though he got JD's endorsement, he lost by more than 56 points.
I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
Jimmy Kimmel basically just reinvented the meaning of savage, turning JD Vance into the walking definition of a participation trophy, stumbling around like someone who wandered off a reality show straight into a political debate. Meanwhile, Trump is having a meltdown so dramatic you could probably see it from space, an emotional solar flare threatening satellites and Twitter threads at the same time.
He wrote, Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight. Now, if Republicans had won and he wasn't on the ballot, would he take credit for that? Oh, yes, he definitely would, but he lost. And then he posted this. He posted, and so it begins, which was either a response to Mamdani winning the mayoral race or he just said.
Kimmel doesn't waste a single second because subtlety simply isn't his thing. Subtlety is for salads, not public humiliation. Every jab hits with laser-guided accuracy, aimed right at someone's ego, and it is brutally mesmerizing to watch. Trump responds with peak chaos, eyebrows flying into new zip codes, hands flapping around like he's trying to swat away an invisible swarm of accountability.
This morning, he threatened to delay SNAP benefits to the 42 million Americans who need them until the shutdown is over. And then his press secretary had to go out there and walk that back because he legally can't do it. It really is amazing. The president says one thing, the White House says another entirely different. It's like the one hand doesn't know what the other tiny, bruised, makeup-covered, greasy, genitalia-grabbing, Sharpie-stained baby hand.
Kimmel casually mentions legacy, and suddenly Trump spirals like he's being haunted by his own highlight reel. JD Vance tries to survive the onslaught, but he's drowning in punchlines, each one harsher than the last. And no matter how hard he tries to look composed, you can't pretend you're not the country's favorite punchline forever.
Leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. Now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud.
Just when the room feels like it can't get any more painfully awkward, Michelle Obama steps in with nothing but her words and that legendary poise that can shrink the biggest egos down to toddler size. She doesn't need theatrics or volume. She dismantles people gently, precisely, and with the kind of grace that leaves the target fully aware of what's happening, but completely powerless to stop it.
Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is.
Trump tries to respond, but it's like watching a toddler argue with a Nobel laureate. Pointless, exhausting, and painfully one-sided. JD Vance sits there looking like he's being slowly digested by polite intellectual disdain. Every pause reminding him he should have stayed home. Meanwhile, Kimmel treats the chaos like a musical composition, firing off lines that slice through the room with chainsaw smoothness. Each pun detonates on impact, each jab another landmine. Trump's rebuttals flop between laughable and unhinged, like he's trying to play chess while Kimmel is playing 4D laser tag, and somehow losing at both.
Also, hey, you just think about how cruel a person has to be to cut off food to 42 million people. It's the kind of thing that makes you go, oh, no wonder his kids are like that. The guy who never missed a Happy Meal in his life is deciding who gets to eat in this country. So after a federal court ordered them to do it, the Trump administration agreed to pay half the benefits, which is not enough, so...
Michelle Obama's approach hits even harder because it's so quiet and controlled. No theatrics, no shouting, just this serene, devastating logic that makes JD Vance look like he's trying to explain algebra to a cat. Every point she makes lands in total silence, and that silence becomes suffocating. Trump flails, JD freezes, and the entire audience leans in, hooked on the slow unraveling. Kimmel mentions history, and Trump reacts like someone just insulted his Twitter archive. JD tries to nod along, but looks more like a deer caught in existential headlights.
A known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse, all of this while we pick apart Kamala's answers from interviews that he doesn't even have the courage to do, y'all. Please, do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for...
Michelle watches the chaos unfold with that calm, curious look, like she's observing a science experiment and realizing the hypothesis was doomed from the start. Every comment she drops is sharp enough to cut steel, delivered gently enough to make it sting twice as much. Kimmel is throwing grenades, but Michelle is performing a slow, articulate demolition that leaves Trump and JD spiritually evicted. Together, their styles collide. Kimmel's wild, hilarious chaos and Michelle's serene, surgical precision, creating the kind of takedown that leaves nothing standing but the truth.
They see an entitlement that says only certain people belong here. That greed is good and winning is everything, because as long as you come out on top, it doesn't matter what happens to everyone else. And they see what happens when that lack of empathy is ginned up into outright disdain. They see our leaders labeling fellow citizens enemies of the state while emboldening torch-bearing white...
This whole thing isn't about popularity or polls. It's ego slamming into intellect, humor crashing into poise. Kimmel turns the room into a pressure cooker while Michelle quietly lets the steam out, letting the consequences simmer. By the end, the only thing left is humiliation's aftertaste and punchlines that JD will be haunted by for years. JD's attempts to recover look like someone trying to fix a sinking ship with duct tape. Michelle's logic wears him down like waves eroding a sandcastle built on arrogance.
Not like Trump doesn't care about people. I mean, he has a lot of empathy. He's feeling especially bad right now for the family of the newly decrowned Jeffrey Epstein pal, the now former Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew in the UK has had his royal titles stripped away because of the Epstein scandal. I know you're close to the royal family there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation.
Trump, of course, can't handle any of it. He escalates, raises his voice, and turns himself into a full-blown performance art piece. But none of it matters. Kimmel has already turned his exaggerations into punchlines, and Michelle's calm clarity has transformed his rants into case studies in overreaction. JD tries to chime in, but it lands like a whisper in a hurricane. Kimmel obliterates, Michelle dismantles, and the contrast becomes so perfect it's almost beautiful.
According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Diddy is scheduled to be released on May 8th, 2028, just in time to run for president. And Diddy requested a pardon from President Trump. You know, every so often I say something on the show that would make no sense if I heard it in like 2014. And Diddy has requested a pardon from President Trump is one of the...
The audience is frozen because this is more than entertainment. It's a live lesson in how ego collapses under the weight of wit and wisdom. Trump and JD learn quickly that charm and bluster are useless when confronted with intelligence and comedic precision. Michelle slices through arrogance with quiet force, while Kimmel reshapes chaos into entertainment. Trump will tweet later, desperately trying to reclaim dignity, but the damage is already permanent. The world saw everything.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen...
The audience is left with a spectacle so sharp, so relentless, and so perfectly delivered that it might never be topped. JD's attempts to salvage dignity look like someone trying to sell sand in the desert. Kimmel isn't reacting, he's predicting, striking, and doubling down. Every line a wrecking ball aimed directly at fragile egos. Trump thrashes, sputters, and panics as he realizes charisma can't save him here. Michelle stays calm, smart, and devastating, creating a contrast so powerful it feels poetic.
I mean, that son of a bitch, you know, is really unbelievable.
Mr. Son of a bitch.
I mean,
Mr. Son of a bitch.
His loyal... Yes, yeah, no, I never imagined that we'd ever have a president like this, and I hope we don't ever have another president like this again. I mean, I never even imagined there would ever be a situation in which the president of our country was celebrating hundreds of...
And right in the middle of all this, JD Vance tries to pretend none of it applies to him, even though reality is screaming otherwise. Michelle doesn't rush, she doesn't have to. Her precision builds slowly, landing quietly but with the weight of a collapsing building. By the time it's over, the whole room is transformed. Trump's ego deflated, JD's confidence evaporated, and the audience treated to a masterclass in how intellect and wit can completely vaporize arrogance. Kimmel brings the chaos, Michelle brings the clarity, and together they create a vortex no ego can survive. In the end, JD and Trump are left picking up whatever scraps of dignity they can still find.